Hi, I'm Courtney, and I'm going to teach you guys how to do a stem stitch today. So as you can see, I have all of my materials ready. I have a pre-cut length of embroidery floss. I have a needle. I have my snips, and I have my pre-framed fabric. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab 2 strands of the embroidery floss. To do this, you can just grab one strand like this, and you can pull it right out. You can only do this with one strand. It's really easy to keep it from tangling. If you try to pull 2 strands at once, you risk knotting up your thread. So I have my 2 strands here, and I'm just going to thread them through the needle. Okay, once you have your thread on the needle, pull it partway through, and then you want to grab the longer end. And to make a knot, I actually do this fun move that I learned where you put the thread like this, you wrap around a few times, you can hold that wrapped section and pull your needle through, and then at the end you'll have a nice neat little knot. If you're using fabric with a looser weave, you might want to add an extra knot at the end if you're using a few strands. If you're using 3 strands or more, it shouldn't be a problem, but I think this knot's big enough. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up here because I'm going to be doing a couple of these. So pull it all the way through. I'm left-handed, so you know, you might want to do it another direction. It doesn't really matter what direction you move in. So I'm going to hold this up here, and then I'm going to move my needle over along the same line about 1 millimeter or a few needle lengths, I guess. Pull it almost all the way through. So you see I'm holding this area up, and I'm just going to come back up right where my initial stitch came up. And then you pull it all the way through. Hold this up again. Move over. Pull it part way through, and then go up at the end of your last stitch. Pull through again, and then you just repeat this process. Just keep going like this, holding it up, stitching a couple of threads away, holding it up. And when you're doing this stem stitch, you want to make sure you're being consistent in the direction that you're going. You don't want to turn and start holding it underneath because that will change your direction. It won't give you this smooth swirl we've created here. So I'm going to keep going like this. To create a curve, you want to make sure that you're making your stitches as close together as possible so that you can keep this swirl going. So I'm going to actually make my stitches a lot closer. As you can see, I'm barely away from the last stitch. So like this. And it can be easy to get things knotted. As you can see, this is starting to kind of ravel around here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull these off, and I'm actually just going to snip the ends where they've started to get frayed. Doing this can save you a lot of knot fixing energy. You just want to make sure that your threads are always untangled to avoid getting knots, especially when you're doing such small stitches. So I'm going to continue curving barely away from the stitch before to create a smooth curve. If you're working a very tight curve and you notice that your swirl is kind of moving over or coming uncurled, you can always go back and add an extra anchor stitch to your piece. So we're just continuing along this way. To end your stem stitch, all you want to do is finish this last stitch by going right in to the end of the stitch. So there you have it, a little swirly line. So all you want to do now to finish this is to knot it. I usually do 2 knots just to make sure that it's going to be held in. And snip. And there you have it, the stem stitch.